It's an early break in here. So we got about
that price is going up too, which I hate.
We are on the air, folks. I didn't realize I had the red button lit up. So we are live. Welcome to Jacques Talks here on KFUG 101. 101.1 FM here in Crescent City, and a shout out to KZZH down in Eureka Arcata region, our sister and brothers to the south. I am Jacques Kepner, Kepner. You could reach out to me on Facebook and find me. I'd like to hear from you if you have an interesting story to tell, a noble cause to represent, an organization that does good in our community. Please reach out to me, and I may very well have you on our show. I'll start off a little different today. I've got a great guest in studio, but I will start off with something I normally don't do, and that's jokes. Because I heard some good jokes, so I got to pass these on. They're kind of corny, but here it goes. Where do pirates get their hooks? From secondhand stores. My guest is over here making pretty weird faces. What is a houseware? A dress. You know why the French like snails, don't you? Well, they hate fast food. Okay, well, that was a change for that was a change for in a long time I haven't done a joke on the air. I hope you enjoyed those. I'll try to get more and more each week. Pretty soon this will be the Jacques Comedy Hour here on KFUG, your sports leader. I still got to get some coach in here, some esteemed sports person that's going to really light up the dials and talk sports here on KFUG. Oh, boy, that reminds me of my growing up in the city down south of here and listening to the radio talk show, the sports radios. All right. It's a beautiful day here in Crescent City, and I think it's really nice down in Eureka and Arcata, too. We are, it's the, what day is it? It's the 17th, I think. It's the 17th of July, 2024. We're 2 weeks out from the big bang bang that we had 2 weeks ago. And that was a lot of fun. It was a clear night in Perkins. I think I spoke about that for a while. Lovely, lovely time to be in this area. Welcome again to all those listeners to Jacques Talks. Okay, I want to reiterate some of the points that I talked about last week. And that was about the cellular church that we all belong to. You and I, yes, you and I have two phones on me. Going over some of the points I discussed last week and carrying them out a little bit in review is that there's 15 billion smartphones in the world being operated right now. There's 8 billion people. So we're looking at almost 2 for every 1. We are addicted to this cell phone church. Because in the palm of our hand is this pocket-sized deity. It's a digital god that literally billions of us worship daily and many times in a day. I think stats show that in 2010, 14 years ago, people were checking in on their phone 10 times a day. Today, it's literally hundreds, if not I'm going to say there's obviously there's people that do it 1,000 times in a day. They don't go anywhere or any place without their cell phones attached in their pocket or looking at it. And they text while they drive. They do all this horrible stuff. We explored this pervasive use of modern religion, the cell phone, because never in the history of mankind and womankind has a single object commanded such devotion. Amazing. I just think of the statistics that says there are more people that subscribe to this religion of the cell phone than all the adherents of Buddhism, Islam, Christianity combined. It's a huge religion. And we not just only roll over and accept this digital deity, this pocket-sized wonder god, but we do it openly and willingly. We agree and accept all terms and conditions. You did when you got your phone. I did when I got my phones, because if I didn't, guess what? I'd be denied entry into the church of the cellular phone. So it's something that I keep talking about. We bow our heads in reverence to these little temples. Think about last time you were at a train station, a airport, any place, schools. Everybody's got their heads bowed to this cellular deity. And again, we blindly accept all those conditions. If I came to you with a new religion and I said, hey, this new manifestation of God is here on earth, and all he or she wants to have you do is this, and then do that, and then more of this and that. You would give me the middle finger. You would wave it at me and gladly say and stomp out and throw horrible words at me as you left. And yet we do it every time we check in with our phones. We accept the new updates. We accept the terms and conditions. Just lay down our lives for that. And we don't have any problem with that. And yet these phones are our confessors, are they not? They are the keepers of our deepest secrets. Oh, man. If Doc only saw what was on my phone. Oh, no, I better get rid of all that stuff. I'm just joking, because I'm perfect. I've never had any bad thing on my phone. But I got to say that a lot of people do. They are our confessors. We keep our deepest secrets and desires locked away and hidden files, don't we? They are saviors. They rescue us from boredom and loneliness. I mean, I'm kind of into that. Boredom, pick up the phone. It's always right there anyways, because maybe it gives us a promise of endless connections and popularity and whatnot. I'm big on Facebook. 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said, Facebook, come on. I'm going to chew gum on the air instead. I wasn't a big fan of Facebook. I'm still not tuned into Instagram. I need somebody to kind of show me the ropes of Instagram. But because of this show and others like it, I feel I have to be sending a beacon of light, just like a lighthouse, out there into the broad unknown, and then hopefully get some responses back to show that people are looking and listening and watching my activities on Facebook. As our cellular gods grow more powerful and ubiquitous, I don't know, will we find enlightenment or enslavement? I don't quite know. I was discussing this briefly with our guest today, and we're both kind of like, scratching our head. Now, both he and I we're in our 60s. We're over 60, I should say. So we knew the world as it was before the cell phone. We knew what the world was when you'd have to go, and if you needed to call somebody, it was going to cost you 2 thin dimes to go to a payphone if you were out on the road, or you'd go into some bar or someplace like that where you could find a phone, and those are completely gone. In fact, they're collectibles these days. Okay, that's what I wanted to kind of touch on, how we do bow our heads to this deity, this pocket-sized deity, this God that glows in our hands and in our pants. And we just love it. We love our life that this little God gives us. And it's not too hard to think down the line that, where are we going? What are your ideas? Where do you think this is going to end up? Are we going to become omnipresent gods ourselves because of the help of this little God that's in our hand? Are we going to switch over from phones, and will they look extinct, and will they be collectibles in the future? Because people go, haha, look at that thing. Whoa, that thing's a super smart iPhone from way back when. Because it's built into our brains, or a chip is installed into our heads, or our glasses become screens that we then aren't so obviously holding this damn thing in our phone, or good thing in our hand. All right, well, that is what I wanted to go back and review, and I will continue reviewing this as more and more of these little lessons of the cell phone deity and the Church of Cellular God come across my plate. I'm talking this up to a lot of people. I haven't read much about it. I have just simply proposed these things to people in the past, and guess what? They're responding either, wow, you're right, or it's just gonna, we'll all be okay. I don't know if we'll have tribulation or it'll be tragedy. Something's got to shake, though, in the world of cell phones and our usage and how it's completely changed us. All right, speaking of cell phones and beacons of light that we hold in our hands, I want to say that there are beacons of hope in a sea of darkness, because that thing I'm talking about now is lighthouses. Lighthouses have always captured our imagination. Ancient lighthouses. I forgot the famous one. Oh boy, it was one of the 7 wonders of the world.
Pharos of Alexandria.
There it is. Let me turn his. Say that again.
Pharos of Alexandria.
Okay, so there was our guest here who's telling, he knows his lighthouses backwards and frontwards. He is a man steeped in the tradition of these lighthouses, and it's fascinating stuff to be steeped into, because these lighthouses stand as silent sentinels. They are unwavering. They offer a light of promise and a safe harbor to treacherous waters and people that are in harm's way. Today on Jacques Talks, we're going to return our gaze to one such notable and iconic beacon. That is the one right here off of our own rugged Northern California coast, the St. George Reef Lighthouse. For those folks down in Arcata, KZZH, and Arcata and Eureka and that region, you don't get to look out and see the lighthouse on a clear day. But us folks up here in the Crescent City all the way up to Brookings, we get a great view of it on a clear day. It's about 8 miles off the coast. We'll get that exact distance from our guest in just a moment. But we get to look at this incredible, iconic thing that we have right here. It's almost like the pyramid. If you're living outside of, or you're living on the far side of Cairo, you get to look out and, hey, look way over there. There's the pyramid. In parallel reflections, like the foundations of our very lives, this lighthouse was built on incredibly unforgiving terrain. Its construction is a testament to human engineering and perseverance, and it reminds me that our greatest achievements can also arrive from such daunting challenges. And it wasn't just building this edifice. The St. George Reef Lighthouse has withstood, it has withstood pounding waves and howling winds for most of its long life, which is nearly twice the age of you or I, dear listener, that we might ever hope to live. I ask you this: would we be able to weather life storms with the same unwavering resolve as the St. George Reef Lighthouse? And stepping aside from such a building, think about the lighthouse keeper, whose dedication to the mirrors and the lights above reflect our own need for purpose. In the solitude of that lofty perch, they maintained a light that guided countless souls to safety. Are we not, in our own way, keepers of a light? Do we not all have the power to illuminate the paths for others, even in its darkest hours? The St. George Reef Lighthouse, like many of its kind, fell into disrepair as technology marched forward. Yet, much like the wisdom of our elders, its value endures. I know this. I am a retired appraiser of fine art and antiquities and an auctioneer. It still endures. The efforts to restore this maritime marvel speak to our innate understanding that some things are worth preserving, that the old can still guide the new. And so as we delve into the history and significance of this remarkable structure with today's guest, John Zimmerman, who is the president of the board of directors overseeing the constant upkeep and restoration of this massive stone lighthouse and a visual monument that we've all gazed on from afar. With that, I'd like to welcome to KFUG and KZZH and beyond a beacon of good news to all that know him, my friend, John Zimmerman. John, welcome to Jacques Talks, man.
Thank you.
That was a long intro. Let's see, how long was my intro? It was 15 minutes from beginning to end.
I'd rather listen to you than me anyway.
Well, there we go. What about a cell phone light up in the tower? Maybe one day they could put 1,000 cell phones together and reflect out to sea. Oh, boy, they could reflect out to sea some lights. He's got his arms crossed, and he's looking at me like, no, I don't think that'll work.
No.
That won't work. Is it still a working lighthouse?
It is indeed. We, back in 2003, we put in I shouldn't say we, I wasn't involved at the time, but a donor donated a new lens for the lighthouse. The original first order Fresnel lens is housed at the Delaware County Museum for everyone to see.
Okay, so what is it called? The Fresnel?
Fresnel lens.
And that was named after this Frenchman?
Augustin Fresnel. Yeah,
wow.
He developed the Fresnel lens in the early 1800s.
And that's in the back of the museum now?
It is, and it's a really beautiful lens. You can see it at the main level of the museum, and then you can walk upstairs and look down at it.
It's cool.
Yeah,
I like it.
It really is.
They've dedicated quite a good area for
they're
this.
Considered priceless.
Priceless,
Yes.
right. There's not many Fresnel lenses around anymore, I suppose.
But the lens we have out there now it's diminutive in size compared to the one that's in the museum. It's probably around 36 inches tall, but it will put out roughly the same distance of a beam. It goes, say, 18 miles.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. When was our lighthouse first conceived and why?
Well, it was built, it was conceived after the wreck of the Brother Jonathan in 1865, but Congress did not appropriate money for the construction of St. George Reef until 1882, where they went out there and took surveys. Once they decided on Northwest Seal Rock, which is at the very bitter end of St. George Reef. So they took soundings in 1882. They began construction in 1883, and over the course of the next 9 years, they built the lighthouse. Oftentimes they ran out of money, or Congress did not appropriate enough. They had slides at the site where they were mining the granite, which is near Arcata, California.
Wow.
And
cool.
they would barge the rocks out, or the stones out to the site, and derrick them on, hoist them onto the rock and fit them together. But
wow.
The actual construction of the lighthouse probably occupied maybe 3 to 4 years total, but it was spread over a decade, basically, by the time they did the original soundings to the time that they finished the
9
lighthouse.
years, you think? So
nine,
it's a
10 years.
Huge undertaking.
Yeah.
And they had to quarry the rock, you said, down near Arcata.
Right.
Is it granite? Is
Granite.
It's granite.
Yeah.
Super dense, super heavy.
That's right.
So I'm thinking today, I was going to ask this question later on, but if there's a problem with how big is the biggest stone? How much does it weigh?
The largest stone that I have read that they brought out there was 17 tons.
Good.
The small ones are 2.5 tons.
Wow, it's like even on the small ones, hey, we just got to fix this one small stone. It's out of place. I mean, it's an undertaking. How would you do that? How do you go repair stone like that? Is it completely weathered the time? How old is it again? 100 and
It's 1892, so you figure about 100 and let's see, 24, 34,
Yeah.
42, 142 years. The stone hasn't shown anywhere.
it's not going to go anywhere.
No,
Okay.
no. They're all locked together. They're locked vertically and horizontally, like a jigsaw puzzle. And then where they're locked vertically, they use, I think it was 2-inch pegs made out of brass to fit the stones together. It's not going to go anyplace.
So the brass doesn't break down that soon,
No.
fast, even under those huge, the constant pounding of the sea, correct?
Right.
And then there's the caisson. Tell us about what is a caisson?
Well, the caisson is an irregular oval. I think it's the diameter on the long direction is 86 feet. If I recall, it's about 70 feet high. The caisson is below the base of the main lighthouse, and inside is an engine room.
Wow.
And the tool room, and below that is a cistern that is capable of storing 77,000 gallons of water. On top of the caisson, there is a gutter that runs around the entire perimeter of the caisson, and it is roughly, I would say, 3 inches deep, and it drops from one end to the other end approximately 3 inches, so that the water is collected, the rainwater is collected on top of that caisson, and it is literally funneled through this gutter into the cistern down in the engine room. It's really a remarkable piece of engineering.
Wow. And the caisson is made of stones too?
Granite. And it's backfilled with rubble and reinforced concrete.
Okay, so was this an expensive undertaking?
It was the most expensive lighthouse built in the country. At the time, it was $750,000. And to put that in perspective, is a typical lighthouse on the coast was less than $50,000.
Wow. So,
just as an average.
So many of the lighthouses that are gone now were just once sitting out of the just a promontory of the land, but this one's sitting out to sea. It must have given the designers, the builders, a huge that's a huge task to figure out how to do this. So they took this rock. They found this rock. They thought, that's the rock we want to be on. And did they blow up weight? Did they blow part of it off?
Yeah, it was originally 54 feet high, and they blasted it down to not much higher than sea level, except the center of it was kind of like a pyramid. And what they did is they surrounded that with the caisson, and they literally locked it into the rock.
Wow. Okay, that's why I started with the caisson, because I want to know, what is this thing's foundational strength? And it's built to stay. It siphons off fresh water, goes into a cistern.
Right.
Who's going to need 77,000 gallons of water down there?
Well, you want to remember when the lighthouse was built or finished it was finished in 1891, and they didn't get the lens till 1892. The mode of what they used to warn ships away in fog was steam whistles in those days. And so you had to have a boiler and to raise a head of steam, and that water,
yes.
it was really thirsty. They used a lot of water to blow the whistles. Plus, of course, the personnel used water, but they didn't take a shower more than like once a week, or a bath in those days. They probably just had the bath.
Just got to stand outside and get hit by a wave.
Yeah, right. But the whistles used a lot of water, and they actually ran out of water more than once, or ran short of it, where they had to bring water out and pump it into the cistern. But as time went on, after the turn of the last century, they went to a distillate engine, and later on diesel engines to build up pressure to blow foghorns that utilized air, and they also used the air to use the boom to transport equipment on and off the lighthouse. Compressed air.
So these are basically rocky peaks sticking up from the ocean floor that just happen to stick above the sea level, and many of them are just under the surface.
Right.
And that would cause shipwrecks.
Absolutely.
A lot of shipwrecks. And what was the Brother Jonathan?
Yes.
That's when it killed how many people?
I think it was 244. I'd have to double check my numbers on that, but in and around. The thing is that when there was to be a major storm, there'd be a lot of smoke. And what I mean by smoke is when the waves would be hitting the rocks, you just get this big mist where you wouldn't be able to see the obstructions. You'd be on top of it before you knew it. And what happened with Brother Jonathan, it was, from what I understand, it was overweight. It was loaded too heavily, and couldn't make any headway against the winds and the storm. And so they decided to come back to Crescent City, and they ended up hitting an obstruction on the way back and sank.
Horrible. Was it during a big storm?
Yeah, it was during a big storm.
Oh, my goodness, poor souls. Okay, so now we've got the caisson down. let's look at the lighthouse structure itself. How tall is it from the caisson up to the top?
About 70 feet, maybe a little bit more. From the sea level to the top of the lighthouse, actually the focal plane, which is midway through the lantern room where the middle of the lens would be, is 146 feet. The caisson's roughly 70 feet high, so you figure another 76 feet. But you got a rock below the caisson, so probably 10 or 15 feet of rock, maybe a little bit more.
Wow. Yeah. So total from the seabed, pardon me, not from the seabed, from the top of the waves that are hitting on a mid-turn tide, it's about 140 feet or above.
About 146, and then if you go to the very top of the dome, it's probably more like 160.
Okay. How many stones did it take? Do you know how many stones it took to build it?
Almost 1,500.
1,500 monster stones, the smallest being 2.5 tons, you said, I think.
You're right.
And then some real big ones. Back in the day, when they would have to dock there, was it picked because it was convenient for a ship to come up and moor next side to it?
They couldn't moor. To be 300 feet away or more, they used a conveyor to run the people and supplies back and forth to the light, and then when they eventually built a derrick on the light, it had an arm that stuck way out so they wouldn't be close to the rock.
Is that part of that still? Is it part of that arm sticking out? That derrick, is it still kind of there?
It fell about 25 years ago. We took most of it off the rock. The mast is still there. The mast is still there, but the derrick itself, the boom is gone.
So a big ship laden with granite stones, tons and tons and tons of a piece, would then moor, pardon me,
right,
300 yards away. 3 football fields?
Yeah, about 300 feet away.
Oh, 300 feet away. Okay. All right. So I get the wrong. So, we're looking at a football field away, baby, and they're ferrying these rocks across some sort of a derrick crane.
Well, they ferry supplies across that way. Eventually, they built a dormitory on the rock for the keepers once they were able to build up high enough where they could put them there. But even then, during storms, it was a nasty business out there.
Wow. I mean, amazing feat of human. Just to think that they could do that undertaking. It was the most expensive of the day, $750,000.
Most expensive ever.
$22 trillion today if they wanted to do it. Just joking about that one.
In the millions.
Okay. So it's now we got this, the light is up 140 feet? No.
146.
Yep. Okay. And imagine that. 146. That is how many stories? That's
many.
That's many stories. It's a huge skyscraper. And you told me once that a wave one time hit.
Not one time, several times. The waves
multiple
have gone over the top of the thing and knocked out lantern and panes, and water was running down the interior, flooding the engine room.
That's the real god of. Yeah.
I have talked to a couple lighthouse keepers actually stationed out there in the early 1950s. And they told me how the building would shake, and how the anything that was on the wall would fly off the walls inside, and that the water would be running down the stairs like a waterfall. The steps are all granite; they're wedged in, and water just to run right down to the engine room, and it flooded the engine room. And what happened was the waves were so high outside the double doors that when the waves would come by the lighthouse, the water would run in, and then when the gap at the bottom, and then when the waves would pass, and the water would run back out again.
Wow. So kind of a dangerous place to be if you weren't in the right spot. Right?
There is.
I think so. It was a difficult project. It was an expensive project. Were there many people killed during the building of the?
I think there was one that was killed in the construction of the lighthouse, which was remarkable. And then they had one keeper that actually disappeared. They never found him, just disappeared. And then they had 3 were killed in 1950. I believe it was 1952 when they were launching the boat off the lighthouse, and one of the cables broke and dumped everybody in the water. And one of the keepers that was actually on the rock got on a rubber raft and went after him. And people. I think it was 2, maybe 3 of them. Well, 3 of them died. 3 of them died.
Wow.
Yeah.
God rest his souls.
Yeah.
When was the St. George Reef Lighthouse officially decommissioned?
1975.
So it was in use until 1975. Finally, what? Technology?
It was probably, in fact, it was the most expensive lighthouse to service on the West Coast by that point. It was difficult to land personnel, and I mean that had never changed, and take personnel off, and the cost of having at that time there was only 3 keepers with 1 on shore instead of a 5 keeper that were 4 were on and 1 was on shore, but. There wasn't the need for it in the same way because most of the shipping lanes have been moved further west. So they decommissioned the light and they put a light on a buoy off the rock.
Wow!
To do the job.
So for years, okay, wait. Before we go any further, I need to stop. We are already halfway through this Jacques Talks here on KFUG 101.1 FM in Crescent City, California, and a shout out to KZZH, all the listeners down in the Eureka and Arcata region. Welcome to Jacques Talks. Here every Wednesday between 1 and 2 p.m. you can hear interesting folks that make a difference in our communities. And you folks down at KZZH, please reach out to me on Facebook and friend me and say, hey, I'm interested. We've got some interesting people that would love to talk with you, that have a noble cause and organizations that are preferably they're 501c3s that are they're to help the people in our community. If you know somebody like that, or you yourself are one, or a great storyteller and have interesting tales to tell, please reach out to me. Again, it's Jacques Kepner, Jacqueus, and the last name is Kepner, K-E-P as in Paul, N-E-R. And let's get together, and we could talk about getting you or your friends or your cause or your organization on the air here on KFUG 101.1 FM in Crescent City. Oh, that kind of rhymes. All right, we've been talking with John Zimmerman, who is the president of the St. George Reef Lighthouse Preservation Society. John has been telling us about the physical structure of it, the huge undertaking it required to build this edifice that's off our shores. How far is it off the shore? 8 miles?
6.5 miles.
It's 6.5 miles. Where's the closest point to land? Right here by the airport?
Point St. George, yeah.
Point St. George, near the airport here in Crescent City. Those of you that are have not been out there, drive out to the point. You go to Washington Boulevard, takes it all the way out there to the Crescent City Airport. And there you could just go past that a bit, and you'll go out to the St. George Point and see it. Also, there is the lighthouse. We'll touch on this lighthouse. What's this Battery Point? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
And that's the one that's the iconic little lighthouse that everybody sees. That's along the shore. It sticks out a little bit there where we see it today. Is it still a working lighthouse?
It's a private navigation like our lighthouse is. In fact, a gentleman, Harlan Watkins, who is he is our project manager for the lighthouse itself. He is also in charge of Crescent City Lighthouse, or Battery Point. And so he wears 2 hats, and he's a great asset to both the museum and the lighthouse of Battery Point, as well as our lighthouse.
He looks like, he's the kind of guy that looks like Darwin. I think, Harlan Watkins.
Yes,
I've seen him. He seems like a very interesting guy.
Yeah, he really is a very integral part of our organization, and accomplishes miracles out at the lighthouse.
Right on. Okay, so it was officially decommissioned in 1972. 75. When was it? Did it just go into a state of abandonment?
Yes. Eventually the General Services Administration they're gonna put it up for sale or for disposal, and our founder Guy Towers read about it, and thanks and really to him, we have a lighthouse that we're now saving.
How would you go about disposing of a lighthouse?
On the auction block, in those days they did. Nowadays they're a lot more sensitive about getting organizations involved with the upkeep of lighthouses that are no longer being used. But in those days, they just got rid of it, and
so we just let it just rot. Well, it's not going to rot down, so it's just going to sit there. What, blow it up, or?
Well, there was even talk about that apparently, that some of the people wanted to return it to the way it was before the lighthouse was built, and
Wow.
there was talk about that, which would have been a travesty to do
Right.
something like that. But anyway, Guy Towers, who really truly is my hero, saved that lighthouse. He and his wife Alice, and in 1986 they formed the St. George Reef Lighthouse Preservation Society. Should also mention a man by the name of Bob Bolin, who I never had the pleasure of meeting. He got that lens out of the lighthouse with the help of the Coast Guard, and built the annex to the museum in order to house the lens in town. And he was one of the founding members as well. Terry McNamara, who was our project manager out of the lighthouse long before I was involved. Great big, just a huge debt to him and his family for being involved and keeping the organization going. And Jim and Marilyn McLaughlin were board members and great friends of mine. They were also founding members, and Jim is still involved, and so is Marilyn to a slightly lesser degree now. But they are also the reasons why we have a lighthouse that we're
Right
saving.
on. So some foresight from some people that had it together, and we're saying, let's look at this not just for our own end of it, but what for generations to come.
Yep.
So when was the Preservation Society formed again? What year?
1986.
And the primary guy, number one guy, was Guy Towers.
Absolutely.
You met Guy.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we were good friends.
He wrote the book. Tell us about the book.
He wrote a book called St. George Reef Lighthouse, which can be bought online from us or at the fair when we have the Del Norte County Fair, and at the Del Norte Historical Society.
Fascinating book.
It is.
Gigi and I, Dr. Gigi and I, have sat down many evenings and just open up to any particular area. It's full of pictures. It's wonderful. It gives a great history of this iconic beacon of hope that we have just outside of our viewpoint. We could see out about 6.5 miles. From St. George, you see it best. When I'm up in Brookings, though, at Sport Haven Beach, I can look out and see it too.
Yeah, Harris Beach.
The
overlook is a perfect spot, or Checo Point.
Right.
Yeah.
Duh. Harris Beach, I could see it too. Right. If you get up on top of Harris Beach, and you could see that. That's an incredible thing. How long have you been the president, John?
I'm on my third year as president, and I was a vice president for about a year before that. I had moved up to Brookings in 2017 and got involved right away. I knew Guy for many years when I was on the board of another lighthouse in the Bay Area, and so we would talk on the phone quite a bit. And then I flew out there in the early 2000s. So when I moved up here, I said, well, if you want someone to swing a paintbrush, I'd be happy to help.
There you go. What state has, before you answer this too quickly, folks, I'm going to have John answer it in 4 seconds after I ask the question. What state has the most lighthouses? 1, 2, 3, 4. John?
Kansas.
Wait a minute.
Michigan.
Well, I heard laughter in the kitchen. Is that Amanda in there? Yeah. Hey, Amanda Doctor's in the kitchen. Okay, that was good. Kansas. Okay. There are no lakes. There might be a lake or two, but why Michigan? Because of the Great
Lake
Lakes.
Huron and Lake Michigan.
Are
a lot of coastline there.
A lot are huge, and they have more than anybody other state. And many of these lighthouses have been decommissioned and gone into abandonment, or have just repairs, so they finally get torn down or whatever they are. If it's on land, it's much more accessible. The St. George Reef Lighthouse, though, is so far. Well, it's not that far out there, but it's so treacherous. Taking a boat out there. You've taken a boat, obviously, and gone around. How do fishermen navigate those waters out there? They got their
GPS and all that sort of thing, and that. And of course, we have a light in there that works. But if it's a bad storm, no one's going to go out there, not by choice anyway.
Right. And then if you have helicopter things now. This is a big new thing that's has been coming down the line for the Preservation Society. It's a great way that you've been raising money for the society and bringing public awareness of the group. And that is by flying folks out to the lighthouse on a helicopter. Tell us more about that.
Well, we have resumed our helicopter flights out there. We went out Memorial Day. We got 91 souls out there.
Wow, how
And
cool
then
is that?
last Labor Day, a year ago, roughly a year ago, we had 121 people out there. And this Labor Day, we're hoping to ferry out at least 90 more.
Wow.
So we're having a 3-day event where we fly people out there, and either was it the August? Let me take a look here. Friday or Saturday? Excuse me. Let's see.
I'm writing it down.
Real
Folks,
quick
grab your
here.
pen and paper. Right now,
Saturday, August 31st, Sunday, September 1st, and Monday, September 2nd, 2024. The cost is $430 per person paid in full, or you can make a deposit of $215 with the final $215 at flight check-in. And you go to the old airport on 202 Del Rupert Road, Crescent
which
City.
is right next to the. It's just past the.
Yes,
there's
by
only one
the
way in
main
and
terminal.
one way out.
We're on the bitter end of the road.
Yeah. There you go. So it's as if you're going to see EC, and you just keep driving out there.
Questions, you can call 707-273-1905, or you can email, and it's written out in longhand, St. George Reef Light.
And SAINT.
Yes.
Okay.
At gmail.com, and you can follow us on Facebook at St. George Reef Light.
Oh, so that was at Gmail, was it?
Yes, at Gmail.
So it's all written out. That's the longest name I think I've ever written. St. George Reef Lighthouse at Gmail.
No, just Light.
Oh, just, okay.
St. George Reef Light at
All
gmail.com.
All right, so now it's not so long. At gmail.com. All right, I'm going to give you all these again as you're fumbling around looking for a piece of paper and a pen. The phone number, whose phone number is that? Is that just a general phone number?
That's a general phone number, but I'm the one that answers the phone.
Okay, there you go. So if you want to talk to John Zimmerman, our guest here today on Jacques Talks, you can reach out to him and call him directly. I will give these numbers again, but for now it's 707-273-1905. How did you get such a good cell phone number? I mean, the 273 is okay, but the 1905, that's good. I just recently got a new Android. I've always had an Apple, and now I have two. And I had the greatest number I had to give up. And now I've got the worst number. I can't even remember it half the time. It's just every digit and every numeral 1 through 10 it's got. Well, except 10.
One thing else I'd like to mention, someone calls me and I'm not answering the phone, leave a message. I will return the call. I'm one of those. I actually return telephone calls.
He does. He's good. He's good at that. You could also reach out to spell it out, SAINT, George Reef Light at gmail.com. Is there a website? Is there?
There is, actually.
Okay.
And, of course, I don't remember it, so I'm going to have to...
It's okay. So, and we'll get back into these tours that...
Right, here it is. Okay, the website is, same thing, stgeorgereeflight.org.
Okay.
And then you get a /tours. You can actually book online.
Okay, cool. And the actual tour itself, so you're going to go out to the airport.
Right.
You're going to be staging people 2 at a time, 4 at a time? How many?
It depends on the weight and how much fuel's in the helicopter. That's the pilot's call, but usually 3 to 4 people.
Okay.
And you get on board, and you're flown out. We usually, before you get on board, we give you a brief history of the Lighthouse. Then you get on board. We fly you out, which is right along the reef, so you get to see the whole reef, all the different rocks, Hump Rock, Star Rock, Southwest Hill, and the Northwest Hill, where the Lighthouse
all these different treacherous rocks that sticking their heads up or just under the surface.
And
so
$1 million view. $1 million view.
Yeah.
And then you land on the caisson at the Lighthouse. And we get you into the building right away, and we take you down to the engine room, and we give you a brief history of that. We have some illustrations on how it used to look like 100 years ago. Then we take you up to the galley, which is the kitchen, and we give you a brief discussion on what went on there, because they had the radio there. They would call shore every day and check in on that sort of thing. And then we take you up to the light to the very top of the lantern room, and we go by the keeper's quarters. There's 3 floors worth of worth of rooms, and then
Interesting.
you go to the watch room, which we have. I call it a widow's walk, but it's really a galley where you can step outside and you can
Take a shower. Take a shower. Get hit by the wave. Yeah, okay.
You're 70 feet above 70 feet above the case, 140 feet above the water, and then we take you up a ladder to the lantern room. You get to see the optic and
so you have to have some physical abilities here to go.
Yeah, there's over 90 steps.
Okay, I was going to ask you how many steps. Now, some of the towers that Gigi and I walked up in Germany, up and down were 500 was the most I counted. That's a lot of stairs, but I'm sure it's the same way. It's a spiral stairway that goes around, made of granite. You have a nice little railing with this is just a cord or a metal.
No, it's a metal railing.
It's a metal railing. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you're not going to fall. It's dry in there.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's well lit.
Yes, it's well lit.
And then you get to go up to the top. Now you're sitting up there 150 feet or so above the water, getting an incredible view if it's a nice sunny day, right?
Right.
What's it like?
Wonderful. You can see all the way south the Redding Rock off of Auric, near south of the Trees of Mystery there. And then you can see as far north past Brookings.
Yeah, right on.
And because you get to see the Coast Range, sometimes there's snow on the mountains, you can see that.
Yeah, true.
And so forth. But you get an opportunity to see the whales sometimes go by and you see spouts and so forth. And of course, there's an unbelievable amount of sea lions.
I know Michelle Bupert and her husband flew out there and they videotaped or they filmed it on their phone. It came out fantastic, like looking over the pilot shoulder and then it's kind of shaking and they land and then wow. And then Sebastian Monroe, one of our own here at KFUG, had put out a program, a short video on it. It's really worth viewing. Everybody gets a chance to see that. Go look up Sebastian Monroe's KFUG Redwood Voice video of his time out on the rock. How long does this take, this tour? Approximately?
Well, about an hour out at the Lighthouse, and you had a half an hour for the round trip, and debarking and getting loaded on, obviously. So we figure about an hour and a half. And I want everybody in your audience to understand that we the amount we charge, we break even if we're lucky. We really don't raise any additional funds off of that.
Except public awareness.
It's really expensive. But our philosophy is, of course, with the hopefully with grants and other donations, the money will come to restore it. We have every confidence in that. It just may take a while. But the taxpayers built that lighthouse, and in our eyes, the board agrees that the general public needs to have access to the Sentinel. I mean, after all, it was built with taxpayers' money.
Yeah, right on. So, and it's a heck of a Sentinel at that. It's such iconic, so unusual, so unique, and it's right here off our backyards. There's 3 days of tours now.
Yep.
Saturday, August 31st, Sunday, the 1st of September, and the 2nd, Monday. So you're having 3 days.
Right.
And you hired or you contracted out with this new helicopter company. Okay, and they're good. And people can fly out there. You get a brief lesson or a history lesson on the lighthouse. Do you stage people to come through every hour? Do you have docents out on the?
No, we have docents out at the Lighthouse. They're all volunteers because we have work people out there too that are volunteers. So everybody's involved. I'll probably be a docent out there this time. Last time I wasn't. I had someone else go out. So that everybody gets a turn to go out there and do that. But everybody gets a membership or a supporter level because they buy the ticket, and we see to it that they are on our newsletter and are on our list to get our newsletter for a year. After that, that goes along with the price of the ticket.
Right on. So you become a member, a supporting member. It's a break even pretty much for them to fly you out, but it's a lifetime experience, right?
Yes, it is.
One of a kind of life experience, altering. I mean, you could be transformed by seeing something. So it's like a walk on the moon. Yep. Not many people get to get out there. Is there Wi-Fi connection out there, do you?
Yes, but it's intermittent.
Okay.
It's intermittent.
And back in the day, how would they communicate with
radio?
Before radio.
Signal flags.
Signal flags.
Yeah.
and they would go out there. What was it like? I'm going to backtrack a little bit since we have about 10 minutes left on the show. Man, it's going by fast because this is such an interesting subject, and we got such a knowledgeable person here in the studio, in John Zimmerman, to talk up the history of it. A lighthouse is only as good as its keeper, or back in the day it was, right? They had to keep the light going. They had to withstand the storms. You would think that the person that would want to become a lightkeeper would be bolstered and have all their mental faculties all together. But doesn't the being out isolated like that, aren't there some strange stories about some of the keepers and what they'd report?
There are a lot of them that wanted to get transferred off of there really fast.
Wow.
And then there's some that were really worked out, that they really liked living there. I mean, one of the keepers I interviewed, he was a Coast Guardsman, not a Lighthouse Service guy. This is after 1939, obviously. But he liked it so well that when he got transferred out of there and he asked for a transfer back, he was out there for a total of 39 months. And here he is now, 90 years old. He's still, all he talks about is, not all, but a lot of what he talks about is his great experience out at St. George Reef Lighthouse.
He was a real loner.
He loved it. Well, he's married, had kids, later on, and was perfectly happy with that. But as a young man, he really enjoyed being out there. It was great.
I wonder if has he written any stuff about his reflections?
I have interviewed him, and his buddy, the fellow I'm talking about, is John Gibbons, a good friend, and his buddy Bob Hackmeister. They were both stationed out there in 1953, and.
Wow.
They're in Colorado. I wouldn't have interviewed him. Was a lot of fun. I call him every couple weeks, just check up on him, and he's got great stories. Great stories.
I bet. Was anybody out there when you said somebody was out there when that one or multiple times wave went over the top, 150-foot high waves going over the lighthouse and flooding the inside of the flat?
Gibby was out there when that happened.
Whoa. When was that? 1950?
He was there in 1953, but they had numerous storms out there where they caused damage.
Right on. I mean, huge. It just seems like the kind of person that would take. They were all men, right? There were no women that would.
It was a stag light, strictly.
It was a stag light.
Yeah, a stag light. Yeah.
None of them report any ghost stories. I know you say you've never experienced any ghosts.
No. Maybe there's just friendly ghosts out there. But
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say there was a keeper. His name was George Rowe. Was out there, I think, almost 3 decades, and he ended up being a principal keeper. But he was on leave to Crescent City, and he'd been on shore for quite a while, and he was supposed to go out there. And this is before they used Coast Guard ships. This is before the Coast Guard took it over. They had a launch, and the launch wasn't that big. And it was his time to go back out to the lighthouse, and the weather was turning dirty. But he decided to go ahead and try to make it out there. So he left Crescent City. He was 62 at the time. And he motored out there. And as he motored out to Northwest Seal Rock, the weather got worse and worse and worse. And then by the time he got out to the rock, it was so bad that he could not hook on to the boom.
Good God.
And he was beat around the boat terribly bad. And
pressed between the boat and the rocks?
Well, no, just in the boat he got smacked back and forth and so forth. He stayed away from the rock. He would have wrecked. But anyway, long story short on it, after 3 hours of this, he gave up and he went back to Crescent City. And by the time he got back to Crescent City, the boat was half full of water, and they pulled him out and he took him to the hospital and he died.
Wow. God bless his soul. What a trip.
Yeah.
Wow. So
tough way to end a career.
Yeah, tough way to end. None of the keepers ever died out there, and then they...
Not out there. Not that I know of.
Yeah. Okay, so it's gone. It went through. It has had its heyday. It went through...
Except for the 3 that drowned.
Except for the 3. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Right. So it went through its heyday. Then technology started coming in. Is there also foghorn attached to it out there? I mean, that's
No, the foghorn. One of the problems is when we started using it as a heliport. Of course, the foghorn, a good part of the components have been removed anyway, but we had to take down the fixture that held the foghorn in order to make enough room for the helicopter to land.
What kind of renovations are you working on now, and what do you want to get to? Is it, so you've got the boiler room kind of cleaned out, and that's
right? Yeah, we are still in the working on emptying out some of the junk that has accumulated over the years in the engine room. We so far have taken off almost 2,000 pounds of debris off the Lighthouse.
It's like old desks and wood structures.
There was just a lot of stuff that had deteriorated that we removed. That the parts, pieces, just various and sundry junk. There was a lot of work that had been done over the last 20 years that off and on when we go out there that was left out there. We never got it ashore. We had old batteries from that were charged up by those solar panels that had been spent that we needed to haul
So
ashore.
you're taking them off, by the helicopter?
That's right.
So not that much weight.
No.
You just got to take a bunch of trips, and that costs money to do that.
Well, we try to backload, the backhaul off of it. But once we get a helicopter with a sling load capability, we'll be able to take a sling out there and get it off.
That's right.
A lot easier. But the last two helicopter companies we had, they didn't have sling load capability, so we weren't able to do it. But we do the best we can with what we have.
So you just haul it up to the top of the caisson, then the helicopter gets within range, it lowers its cable down, like you see the Coast Guard.
Well, that's when they have a sling load. Otherwise,
Excuse me, I just dropped my phone.
We load it onto the helicopter in their cargo bay. But we've been getting we're making progress. In a situation like this, you got to look back and see, well, what have we gotten done as opposed to what still needs to be done. Otherwise, you might get a little depressed.
Right on. Okay, I'm just checking my God. My God's okay. God, are you okay? You are not cracked? Did you hear that crash? That was my phone falling without its case. I have a protective case for my God. All right, so you are the president. You are the guy that knows it all. You were a friend with Guy Towers and these other individuals who are so monumental in their time to bring the Lighthouse. Where do you see the Lighthouse in 5 years, 10 years from now?
Well, hopefully within 10 years of this, we'll have it totally restored. I'm hoping that we can secure enough grants in order to work from the top down. We have some leaks and that sort of thing that we have to take care of. We'd like to refurbish each room back to the period. We haven't quite figured out whether we're going to go back to Lighthouse Service days or if we're going to go back to just the Coast Guard days, or maybe we have 3 rooms. We can do 1 Coast Guard, 1 Lighthouse Service.
When did the Coast Guard get involved with it?
1939, the Lighthouse Service was absorbed by the Coast Guard.
So it became their job to keep it manned, safe, everything working and everything like that. There's no electricity running out there, or is there?
No, we take generators out there.
Okay.
You're asking about projects. We have 3 sets of plans. 1 plan for improving the sanitation out there so the bathroom situation, so we aren't having to haul stuff to shore. We're raising money for that. We're raising money to electrify the lighthouse with strictly solar panels with a generator backup. And then the third thing is that we want to create a water catchment system, not using the caisson, but using the upper part of the lighthouse as a catch for rainwater, and we'll have it stored on the rock, 500-gallon tank or something like that for drinking water and so forth.
Excellent. I have talked with John Zimmerman, president of the St. George Reef Lighthouse Preservation Society, multiple times. He's been on KFUG and up in KCIW. Always a pleasure to talk to you, John. Really, you're so knowledgeable about so many things, and every time you're on the show, I learn new things about this iconic, wonderful, beautiful thing called Lighthouse just off our shore. You can reach John directly by dialing 707 on your cell phone, God. 707-273-1905, or you can look up on Gmail as Saint, it's all spelled out, SAINT, George Reef Light at gmail.com, and then also stgeorgereeflight.org/tours. You can find out more. John, always a pleasure to have you on. We'll have you on again before the actual helicopter tours take off again. Thanks for all your incredible dedication to this preservation job.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm one of many. I mean, our board is very, very hardworking, and it's thanks to them that we're getting so much done.
You're always looking for donations. You're always looking for helpers, too, right? I mean, if people
Absolutely.
want to get involved, you can get involved with a noble, wonderful preservation of our iconic lighthouse. That's it for today. Amanda Doctor is in the studio. Hi, Amanda.
Hello.
How are you? Oh, wait, we got a full whopping minute and a half. She's here today. It's been fun talking to you. I'm glad I made some of us laugh with those dumb jokes. But I think I like that. I'm not going to tell anymore again. The secondhand shop of the guy. Okay, thank you so much for listening to Jacques Talks. You could reach out to me. Find me on Facebook at Jacques Kepner, K-E-P as in Paul, N-E-R. I'd love to talk to you. KZZH, peace and love to all of everybody down there. You have a wonderful week. We will see you all soon. Next week, I have some interesting guests coming in. So always good to hear from you when you get back to me. I appreciate your time. Peace and love, everybody. Bye-bye.